Hello and welcome to the Elsabe Smit Show. Our topic for today is love your neighbor, that is all. That raises the first question. Who is your neighbor? And I can answer it for you, but I'm going to quote the experts. From this little book that I channeled a few years ago, I will read you a quote on this. What does loving your neighbor mean? And who is your neighbor? This is another aspect of love that we want to explain. We being the messengers from the Pleiades who helped me by dictating this book to me. Your neighbor is really everyone on this planet, including tyrants, fisters, philosophers, bigamists, no matter how you want to label them. Loving everyone on the planet is an easy task, as is proven by politicians all the time. Loving your neighbor is much more complex because your neighbor includes family members, friends, the troublemakers in your community, and even your own body. Here is your task for today. Make a list of the people whom you find difficult to love, even though you know you are obliged to. Make a list of the people you love but don't like right now. What do all these people have in common? You. If anyone needs to change, you do. How do you need to change? Ask yourself why you do not love these people. In what way do you judge them? Then work on acceptance. Accept them as being different from you and therefore complimenting you. They will not change. You will need to change your view of them. No, you do not need to do this all at once. Do it for one person at a time and see how your love grows. You are blessed. So there you have it. Who is your neighbor? Your first neighbor is your body. Do you look after your diet? Do you exercise? Do you love your first neighbor, which is your body, to the extent that you care for it as much as you possibly can? So who else would be your neighbor? That would be your family. And don't tell me about challenges in families. I've got my own. We all have them. That's why we're here. That is why they are our family. They are our greatest teachers. Sometimes they teach us about unconditional love. Sometimes they teach us about perseverance. Sometimes just tolerance. Sometimes goodness knows what they want to teach us. We just have to deal with it because they are family and they are our blood. So yes, you have to love your family. You do not always need to like what they do or who they are or how they express themselves. But it's your God-given duty to love them. Who else is your neighbor? Your friends. Yes, those friends that you left behind, they are also your neighbor. You left them behind for a reason. Sometimes you left them behind in anger and as part of an argument. Other times you just outgrow them. You just lose contact. And then years and years later you remember about them, or your paths might cross again. They are also your neighbor. And every single one of the people that we befriend in this lifetime, whether it is in the real life, a person to person, whether it is on social media, whether it is in any way, they are all part of our life path for a purpose, even when it becomes unpleasant. And I would say, especially when it becomes unpleasant, that's when you really have to love your neighbor and those friends of yours that you can qualify as your neighbors. Then, this is a tricky one, especially in the time that we live in today. You know those people who are in elected positions or who treat themselves as if they are in elected positions? They're called politicians, they are called celebrities, they are called bureaucrats, whoever they are. You know, they do things to you. They don't do what you expect them to do. And therefore, you really cannot stand them. Who are they? Who are this anonymous group? Again, I want to go back to this book, this lovely book called Shine that I channeled. In here, there are 2 chapters on politics, specifically on politics and on politicians. I'm not going to talk politics here. I'm simply going to read to you what was channeled to me a few years ago. You then decide what you want to take from it. Here's the first chapter. It starts, Today, we want to explain the role of politics. Yes, politicians are often reviled, but they do play an important role. They are the barometer of the society you created. When they lie, it's because they conform to the norm. When they don't care, it's because they conform to the norm everyone created. For causes, it's because they can see some benefit in the causes. And they do it for the people. They are an excellent barometer, but that is hardly ever noticed. They are seen as the other. So how do you deal with this? You don't suddenly all get involved in politics. That would be even more chaotic than your world already is. You study the politicians and their utterances. Then you identify the part of your life that reads them. Then you decide what you want to do about it. If you want to accept that part of you, then do so. If you want to change that part of you, then first accept it, because acceptance is the basis for change. If you want to reject that part of you, then ask yourself why. Important, because you cannot reject a part of you, just like your right arm will not go away if you choose to reject it. The only way you can build is by becoming consciously more aware of the world and accepting yourself in it. That will allow you the choice of accepting or rejecting and making an informed these politicians at all times. Now, in this book, there's another very, very short chapter, also dealing with politics and politicians. This is what some politicians are such strong spirits that they make themselves the entire planet. Does that sound familiar? People forget that these politicians are also human. You need to learn from them. That's what the authors of this book say. You need to learn from them. They take everything in their stride. Yes, they do take some things personally, but that relates to people close to them. The world does not know about their personal hurts and joys. And again, this sentence, people forget these politicians are also human. So yes, when you talk about them and they and this faceless, nameless group, start dealing with that group. And how would you do that? Identify them by name. Take responsibility for your own actions based on the actions and the behavior that they display that you don't like. That's the only way you can change. You cannot change them. Therefore, you have to change yourself. So love your neighbor. What is love? Love is not an emotion. Love is a feeling, and there's a big difference. Did you know that there are over 3,000 different words in the English language alone that describe emotions? Emotions are energy in motion, and that's literally what it is in your body. An emotion is energy in motion. When I say to you, fake anger, pretend that you are angry. Your facial muscles know what to do. Your voice knows what to do. Your eyes know what to do. Your entire body becomes an angry body. If I say to you, fake empathy, you can do that. You can pretend to feel a lot of empathy without even being concerned about it, because it's an emotion. It's a state of mind. And your body, your face, your voice, your muscles, everything knows how to fake that. Now, if I say to you, fake the moment you held your first child or your first grandchild in your arms. Let's see how far you get. That is a feeling. That's not an emotion. So, and that is the only feeling there is on this planet. It is love. Love is a moment of enlightenment. It is a moment where you catch a glimpse of the universe. It is a moment of lightness. It's a moment of just accepting and being totally, totally unconditional. That is what love is. So how do we feel this love if we cannot fake it? If we cannot, you know that saying, fake it until you make it? But if you cannot fake love, how do you move closer to loving your neighbor? Two things there. The first one is focus on compassion. Feel compassion for that person. What would you do if you were in that person's position? Not what do they do that affronts you, that angers you, that gets you upset in any way, but put yourself in their position. What would you do? And how can you send loving thoughts to that person? That's really compassion. It's not about dishing out food or anything, being charitable in any way. It is about opening your heart, deliberately opening your heart, and focusing on feeling compassion for them, putting yourself in their shoes until you get to the point where you can feel unconditional love for them, and let them know about it. Send them loving thoughts. You don't need to speak to them. You don't need to be in the same room. You don't even need to be in the same country. Just send them those loving thoughts. Another thing that you can do is actually feel empathy for it. Now, on social media, there's this huge thing about this special category of people calling themselves empaths because they have such empathy. They are psychic, they practice as highly intuitive people, and therefore they are in the special category that makes them empaths. Guess what? Every single person on this planet is an empath, if that's what you want to call it. Every single person on this planet has empathy. Every person on this planet is intuitive. There is no special category of people that need to call themselves empaths. If you do feel that you're part of that category, I'm sorry, I have to say to you, go and get some counseling. Go and learn to deal with your emotions. Yes, I'm being harsh here, but there's nothing special about being psychic. There's nothing special about being intuitive or about feeling empathy. If you are intuitive, if you do feel empathy, you belong to the human race, not to any other particular special category. You're just a person. You're just a human person. And if you can get your mind around that, and if you can get to the point where you don't use your status of being an empath to overblow things emotionally, then you'll be in a better position. So emotions and learning to control those emotions will bring you closer to understanding the empathy that you feel for people. It will then bring you closer to feeling compassion, and that will open your heart. And that is how and why you will feel love. So all this palaver about loving your neighbor. Why should you love your neighbor? Well, it's spiritual law. It's spiritual law. If you go to all sorts of different religions, it's one of those laws that is a common denominator in many ancient scripts, in many religious practices. Love your neighbor. Do unto others what you would like to have done unto yourself. It's in the Bible. It's in the Buddhist Udana Varga. It's in the Vedas that are used by the Hindus for their worship. It was in Zoroastrianism, which is an ancient religion philosophy dating to 600 years before Christ. It's part of Confucianism. It's part of every religion. Love your neighbor. Do unto others what you want to have done unto yourselves. Reach out, build that bridge. Put yourself in their shoes. Find compassion. Find common ground. Find the common denominator. Remember, you create your reality. Now, if people don't particularly like you, that's fine. You create your reality. Are you going to reciprocate by not liking them, by not loving them? Now, here's another one. How should you love your neighbor? And that's why I asked, are you going to reciprocate when people treat you badly by not loving them? How should you love your neighbor? Well, there's different ways that we use every day to actually love our neighbor. And part of and we just need to be aware of that and use these simple tools that we have been given to love our neighbors. The very first one, which is a very, very personal one, and you think nobody might know about it and nobody might care about it, is watch your thoughts. So why should you watch your thoughts? Your thoughts are surely your own business. They are in your own mind and nobody else's business. Wrong. Your thoughts are reflected into the world, not just in terms of your physical body. Whatever you think drives your physical body, is an expression of your physical body. So, and you might express your thoughts in your physical body without even being aware of it, without even knowing it. I walked into a shopping center the other day and I saw a man as I was walking in, I saw a man. And what really struck me about him was his immense energy. I actually turned around and I looked at him again because he was radiating energy. He was a charismatic man. Now, I can tell you what is in his thoughts. There's nothing negative in his thoughts because he just doesn't have time for it. That's not how he channels his own energy. So people look at you, they know what's in your thoughts because your thoughts are reflected in your physical body, in your aura, in the way you carry yourself. So people see that and it's got a ripple effect. Whatever you think, you express, people see it and it impacts on them. Here's another one, which is also very, very powerful in the world that we live in. Watch your words. Once you've said words, you cannot take them back. Even if you say, I take them back. It's not how it works. You cannot take those words back. So be careful what you say and watch those words. And again, there's two sides to this. The one is when you speak to somebody, and let's talk about that one first. When you speak to somebody, I walked into, I don't spend my life shopping, but it's just, one of those moments that stood out for me. I walked into another shop the other day and there was a lady outside on the phone and she was going on and on and on about how incredibly immature the other person was, the person that she was talking to. And she was using, effing and blinding and going on about how this person was negligent and how this person dealt with the situation completely inappropriately. And I don't have time for this effing childishness. Grow up, become more mature. And she slammed down the phone. And I listened to this and I thought, you know what? She was telling somebody to grow up and be more mature. She could not have picked a more immature way of dealing with it. And that conversation that she had on her mobile phone with the other person drew me in. Whatever she said hit me. I actually had to walk away and I had to focus on clearing my thoughts and I had to focus on feeling balanced again because of the immense energy that went out from her and from this conversation that she had. So it's not, when you walk in the street and you're talking on your phone, it's not just a conversation between you and the person who is on the other side of the phone. It's a conversation between you, that person, and everybody you walk past in the street. You make them part of that conversation. What first impression do they get of you? And there's another one about watching your words. We live in an era of social media where quite often you don't speak to people, but you write to them or you write about them. You do posts on all sorts of social media and people read that and they don't get the emotion that go with it. They just get the words. They add their own emotion, which means that you have to be extra careful about what you put out there when you write words about yourself, about other people, to other people on social media. Again, there's that ripple effect. When you throw a stone into a pond and the water makes those ripples, that's what those words do. Whether you think them, whether you speak them, whether you write them, those words have got a ripple effect. And people pick those words up. And it impacts on them. It impacts on their physical, emotional, and spiritual bodies. It's a responsibility you carry every time you open your mouth, every time you pick up your pen, every time you touch the keyboard. Love your neighbor by understanding that those words bounce back to you. And remember, your first neighbor, your physical body, you want to be careful about what you send out into the world, because it comes back to your physical body. Now, the last one I want to mention to you is watch your actions. Watch what you do, because there must be some sort of synchronicity between what you say and what you do. One thing that I always wonder about in societies where guns are prevalent, where violence is prevalent, and where there's a strong religious basis, it always hits me that people would go to church on a Sunday and they would claim to love their neighbor, but then they drive away from the church with their firearm with them, with a club in the back in the car next to their seat, so that they can hit somebody in case somebody attacks them. Guess what? That is what they send out into the world. That is what comes back to them. I once owned a firearm. I never would have bought it for myself. It was given to me as a present, as a gift, from somebody who thought he knew me. He didn't know me. I got rid of it as quickly as I can. I never think of going out into this world with the expectation that I have to defend myself physically and by using physical violence. Well, it works for me. And yes, you will say, okay, but you live in a safe society, in a safe environment. I lived in a society, in an environment that were deemed, that today, to this day, is deemed unsafe. I've lived there for years and years and years. I never felt that I had to physically defend myself. Yes, for a very short spell I did karate. That was about physical fitness. It was about exercise. It wasn't about defending myself. It wasn't about hurting somebody else. My experience is that the more love you send out, the more love bounces back to you. So loving my neighbor starts with me loving myself. If I love myself, that is what I send out into the world. If I can't love myself, then there's work to be done. Then I need to start working on that. But if I do love myself, now I'm not talking about a narcissistic, arrogant way of loving myself. It's more about accept who I am, accept myself, and taking responsibility for myself, taking responsibility for my thoughts, my words, my actions. As long as I send that out into the world, I'm okay. When I find people that I would tend to avoid or ignore them because they are different from me, that for me is a lesson in loving my neighbor. I was in Germany the other day, and I needed to ask directions. The closest person to me was a huge, big man with tattoos all over. Now, I don't particularly like tattoos. That's purely a personal thing. But that's probably because as a child I grew up with the connotation that people who have tattoos are not kind people. During my life, I have met people who have had tattoos all over, and they are the kindest people. And for me, it's purely a personal preference. So I'm not being biased here. But this man had tattoos, and he didn't look like a very pleasant man. And he was massive. He was physically huge as well. But he was the only person around. So I walked up to him and I asked him in English whether he can explain to me which way to walk towards the river, because I wanted to go to the old part of a particular German city. And I wanted to have this conversation as short as possible. Guess what? Not only did the man speak English back to me, because he was bilingual, he spoke English as well as German, and he told me in which direction to go. So I then asked him, I immediately felt comfortable with him, and I then asked him, how far is it? And he looked at me and he smiled and he said, how far is far? So here was this laborer. I came with my prejudices, and it turned out to be a philosopher, somebody that I could reach out to. I've had many experiences where I reached out to people who are obviously different from me. And in every instance, I found it to be such an enriching experience. I don't need to defend myself. But speaking about defending yourself, is this the way to embrace the world? You're not going to get any far. Open up, embrace the world. Is this the way to make friends? No, this is the way to make friends. Reach out, shake your hand, touch somebody, obviously with their permission, but reach out, open up your body language, not just your thoughts, your words, your actions, but your whole body language must say, I'm okay in myself, I welcome you, even if you are different from me, especially if you are different from me, because that helps you to love your neighbor. So yes, small little things, but the first thing is take responsibility for who you are, for what you are, and then from there, keep reaching out, reaching out. That is how you love your neighbor. I hope this has been interesting and helpful for you. And I'll be back next Sunday, same time, same place, 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, British time, with another interesting topic. See you next week. Bye.